Ever seen a human beg for mercy? No, me neither. Commander K jeered, his voice commanding the attention of the assemblage below. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tension. The many species present eyed one another anxiously. K's 7T frame dominated center, his scaled fists clenched, pacing. Humans are weak. He snarled on, his voice oozing disdain. They haven't participated in a single galactic conflict for over a millennium. They just hide behind their diplomacy and fragile alliances. Too afraid to stand on their own two legs. Murmur of 047. Agreement rippled through the chamber. The Terran Empire had long been a subject of ridicule, their absence from the war fronts of the galaxy interpreted as cowardice. For centuries, humanity had managed to stay out of the fray, negotiating peace where others waged war, buying time with treaties and trade deals. It was a strategy that had kept their worlds intact while others burned, but it had earned them little respect. Perhaps we should issue an ultimatum, suggested Saul, a slender amphibious being with skin the color of 126. Deep water forked them to choose a side. Either they fight with us against the Krogan, or we dismantle their precious empire piece by piece. They won't fight. K scoffed they'll surrender before the first shot is fired. Humans are too civilized to evolve to get their hands dirty. The assembly nodded the decision all, but made a message would be sent to the Terran Empire, demanding their immediate involvement in the galactic conflict against the Krogan. It was a war that had raged for decades, consuming entire systems. In its fury, the 207 Council had grown desperate for an edge, and the Terran Empire, with its vast resources and advanced technology, was an untapped wellspring. If they refused, the Council would invade and strip them of their riches. But what the Galactic Council had failed to understand, what they could not have known, was that humanity's peace was not born from fear. It was a carefully maintained facade, a delicate balance that had kept the true nature of the Terran Empire hidden for centuries. The humans had not forgotten how to wage war. 247. They had simply decreed not to, believing that for them, that their survival depended on it. The message was broadcasted out across the galaxy, on every frequency, in every language known to the Council. It reached Terra Prime within hours. Its tone was dripping with thinly veiled threats and condescension. 2 days later, the Council receives a response. The message was short, almost disappointingly so. 3 simple words: we accept, prepare. There was no additional context, no conditions, no negotiations. Just a promise that the Terran Empire would join the war effort. 3:31. Commander K stared at the message. The first time, his confidence began to falter. What is this? He growled, eyes narrowing at the screen. This isn't the reply of a terrified species. ST shifted uneasily beside him. Maybe they want to provide support from afar, resources, but not solders. KRA shook his head. No, the message is clear. They're joining the war. But why so sudden? Why so casual? The Council members exchanged nervous glances. The earlier bravado dissipated in the wake of this unexpected turn of events. Humanities. 414. Response had been far too calm, far too measured. It was not the reaction of a species reluctantly dragged into conflict. It was the response of a species that had been waiting for an excuse. What do we know about their military? K demanded, turning to his aides. What are we up against? One of his officers, a squat insectoid being named Vil, fidgeted nervously. The Terran Empire has been notoriously secretive about its military capabilities. We have estimates based on trade records and technological exports, but estimates. K interrupted his voice. 457. Angry arising. What do we have on their actual forces? Very little, sir. Readmitted their fleet is large, but it's been engaged primarily in exploration and trade protection. They haven't fought a major war. In over 1,000 years, their soldiers are rumored to be well-tread, but again, we have no solid data. Their last recorded engagement was a skirmish with the Drari, which ended in a diplomatic settlement before any real conflict could occur. Her K's frustration mounted. And what of their weapons there? 536. Tactics unknown. RA replied, his mandibles clicking anxiously. The Terran Empire does not share such information, and their dealings with other species have been strictly non-military. The commander slammed his fist down on the console, the force of the blow reverberating through the chamber. Damn, it were walking into this blind stall placed a tentative hand on K's arm. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. Send a delegation to negotiate terms. Ensure that their involvement will be to our advantage. KRA shook his head. 616. No, the message is clear, they're joining the war, but why so suddenly? Why so casually? The council members exchanged nervous glances, the earlier bravado evaporating in the face of this unexpected development. Humanity's response had been far too calm, far too measured. It was not the reaction of a species reluctantly dragged into conflict. It was the response of a species that had been waiting for an excuse. What do we know about their military? KRA demanded, turning to his aides. Why are we up against one of his 657 officers? A squat insectoid being named V fidgeted nervously. The Terran Empire has been notoriously secretive about its military capabilities. We have estimates based on trade records and technological exports, but estimates. K interrupted, his voice rising in anger. What do we have on their actual forces? Very little, sir, V admitted. Their fleet is large, but it's been engaged primarily in exploration and trade protection. They haven't fought a major war in over 1,000 years. Their soldiers are rumored to be well-tread, but 740. Once more, we have nothing concrete. Their last reported contact was a skirmish with the Drari, which concluded with a diplomatic agreement before hostilities could break out. K's patience grew thinner, and what of their arms, their strategies? Unknown. V returned, his mandibles clacking in agitation. The Terran Empire would not release such intelligence, and its relations with other races have been wholly non-violent. The commander pounded his fist onto the console, the shock of the impact rattling through the room. Damn, it were walking into this 822 blind stall laid a hesitant hand on K's arm. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. Send a delegation in to negotiate terms. Make certain their involvement will be to our advantage. K head shook. No, we have already pledged ourselves to this course. If we back down now, we show weakness. And weakness is something we cannot afford, not with the Krogan breathing down our necks. The council members assented, though unease was palpable. The Terran Empire's sudden willingness to engage in war had thrown them off balance, but there was no turning back. Now they would meet the humans on the battlefield and secure their assistance by any means necessary. Within days, the Council fleet was mobilized, the largest armada ever assembled in the galaxy's history. Hundreds of warships, from sleek frigates to hulking battleships, gathered at the rendezvous point near the edge of Terran space. The Krogan were a fearsome enemy, their biotechnological weapons and relentless aggression a constant threat. The Council had expected to fight a war of attrition. 943. But with humanity's involvement, they'd expected quick victory. The fleet waited for Terran forces to arrive, but with tension running high, the crews could only whisper rumors speculating on what the humans might bring with them. Some thought of fleets of sleek, advanced starships, bristling with guns and weird armaments. Others whispered of superweapons cached away on Terran worlds, with the power to annihilate whole planets. And as the hours passed, and nothing was seen or heard from the Terran Empire, doubt began to seep in. Where are they? K. 1024 muttered, pacing the bridge of his flagship. They said they would be here. Perhaps they're planning to rendezvous with us further out, Saul suggested, though his tone was uncertain. K was about to reply when an alert flashed across the main console. Incoming transmission. The communications officer announced it's from the Terran Empire. On screen, KRA ordered the image that appeared was not what anyone had expected. It was not a fleet, nor a delegation of human diplomats. It was a single man clad in a dark uniform, his expression unreadable. He, 1106, stood in what looked like the command center of a warship, except that the design was nothing like anything the Council had seen before. This is Admiral Marcus Reeve of the Terran Empire, the man said, his voice collected and calm. We are en route to your location. Prepare to receive us. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Case stared at the blank screen, his head racing. There had been no hesitation, no hint of the weakness he had expected from the humans. Admiral Reeve had spoken as though he were already in command of the 1147 situation, as if the council fleet were his to direct. Something's not right, Kay muttered more to himself than to anyone else. They're too confident. Stye, ever the voice of caution, nodded. We should be prepared for anything, Commander. The humans may have been hiding their true strength from us all along. Kay scowled, but said nothing. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something far more dangerous than they had anticipated, and as the shadow of the Terran Empire loomed ever closer, the 1224 Galactic Council began to realize that they might have made a grave mistake. The tension on the bridge of Kak's flagship was thick enough to cut with a blade as the Terran Empire's fleet emerged from hyperspace. The display screens flared to life, showing ship after ship materializing in the void. But these were not the sleek, elegant designs the Council had envisioned. The Terran vessels were brutish and utilitarian, with sharp, angular lines and an intimidating presence. Each one bristled with weapons that seemed almost 1302, too many even for the Council's recklessness. By the gods, someone breathed on the bridge. Kra narrowed his reptilian eyes. There was no mistake about it. The firepower arid before them was huge, a lot more massive than anything the Council could have forecasted. Yet it wasn't the number that would make a wave of unease ripple through the assembled Council officers, but the way that moved with that precise, synchronized efficiency, like a predator stalking prey. Open a channel, K ordered, his voice. 1343, tinged with uncertainty. The screen flickered and Admiral Ree's imagery appeared. This time, the Admiral was seated in the command chair of his ship, his demeanor as cool as ever. Commander Kra Reeve began, man inclining his head slightly in a gesture that could have been respect or a mere formality. The Terran Empire has arrived, as promised. We stand ready to engage the Krogan alongside the Galactic Council. Kay's jaw tightened. There was something unnerving about Reeve's poise, as if the Admiral knew full well the Council had cold feet. 1424, and cared not the least. You brought quite the fleet, Admiral Kay said, forcing a smile. It's more than we expected. We believe in being prepared, Reeve replied smoothly. The Kron are a formidable enemy. It would be unwise to underestimate them. KK's eyes narrowed further. I hope you understand the gravity of this situation, Admiral. This war is not like the skirmishes you may have experienced in the past. The Krogan do not negotiate, and they do not retreat. They fight until their enemies are crushed beneath them. Reeve's expression, 1506, did not change. The Terran Empire is fully aware of the Krogan's nature. We have faced similar threats before, though perhaps not on this scale. Rest assured, Commander, we are ready. Kay's instinct yelled at him that something was amiss. He couldn't rightly place what it was. He was a battle-hardened warrior, and he had battled many an adversary on the field, but this felt off. Very well, Kra said at last. We shall move as one. The Krogan fleet has been detected in the Nestor sector. We intend to intercept them before they can reach the core systems. A sound strategy, Reeve agreed. We'll follow your lead. Commander K ended the transmission and turned to his officer. Monitor their movements closely, he ordered. I want to know if they make even the slightest deviation from our course. The Council fleet began its approach to the Nesto sector, the Terran ships falling into formation behind them. The combined armada was a sight to behold, a testament to the might of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. And yet, an undercurrent of 1628. Fear ran through the Council ranks. The Terran Empire's sudden involvement, their overwhelming show of force, and Reeve's unsettling calm had thrown everyone off balance. The tension was palpable, growing thick as they closed in on the Krogan's last known position. The Council's fleet moved in with extreme caution, scanning space for any sign of the enemy. The Krogan were known for their ambush tactics, using their bioengineered warships to launch devastating surprise attacks. There, one of the officers shouted, pointing to the screen. A swarm of red blips appeared on the radar. 1709. Closing in rapidly on our position. Enemy fleet detected. Kra barked. All ships prepare for engagement. The Council's warships move into battle formation. Their weapon systems, powering up the Krogan ships, were massive organic monstrosities, their hulls pulsing with bioluminescent energy. They surged forward with terrifying speed, intent on ramming into the Council's lines. Fire, at will K ordered. and the void erupted in a blaze of energy as the Council fleet opened fire beams of plasma and kinetic projectiles. 1751 streaked across space, slamming into the Krogan ships. The enemy vessels returned fire with their own bioweapon guns, spewing corrosive acid, and spore-filled pods clung to the Council ships, eating away at their hulls. The battle raged on, the void lighting up with the flashes of exploding ships and the shrieks of dying vessels. The Current, true to their reputation, hurled themselves at the Council fleet in relentless fury, heedless of losses. Then the Terran Empire made its move. Without warning, the 1832 Terran ship surged forward, breaking formation and plunging directly into the heart of the Kron Fleet. K watched in shock as the Terran vessels unleashed a barrage of firepower unlike anything he had ever seen. It was not just the volume of fire, but the precision the Terran weapons cut through the Krogan ships, with surgical accuracy targeting weak points with unerring efficiency. "What are they doing?" Sty gasped there. Breaking formation, K's eyes widened as he realized the truth. The Terran weren't 1912 breaking formation. These were following some kind of plan, one they had neglected to share with the Council. The Kron fleet were caught utterly off guard in an instant by this overwhelming assault. Choke. The Terran vessels were moving in a truly terrifying coordination, every move calculated for maximum damage but at minimum risk. The Krogan, in all their ferocity, could not stand a chance against them. One after another, their vessels were torn to shreds, their once imposing fleet reduced to a complete wreckage in mere minutes. And through all of this, Admiral Reeves. Ever seen a human beg for mercy? No, me neither. Commander K sneered as he addressed the Galactic Council. The chamber was electric with tension. Several species from across the galaxy eyed each other warily. Standing in the center, K stood easily at 7 feet and clenched his scaled fist as he spoke, pacing to dominate. "Humans are weak," he added, and his voice was full of disdain. "They have never been involved in any war in the galaxy for the last millennium. They are always taking shelter behind diplomacy and flimsy alliances, too afraid to stand on their own." A murmur of assent swept through the chamber. The Terran Empire, the realm of humanity, had long been a laughingstock, their absence from war fronts branded as cowardliness. For centuries, humans negotiated peace when others took to war, bartering time with treaties and trade agreements. The strategy left their worlds whole while others burned, but reaped them little respect. "Perhaps we should issue them an ultimatum," said Saul, a slick amphibian with deep watercolored skin. "Make them pick a side. Either they fight with us against the Krogans, or else we dismantle their empire, piece by piece." "They won't fight," Kay scoffed. "They'll fall before the first shot is fired. Humans are too civilized, too evolved to get their hands dirty." The assembly nodded, and the decision was all but made. A message would be sent to the Terran Empire, demanding their involvement in the conflict against the Krogans, a war that had consumed systems in its fury for decades. If they refused, the Council would invade and strip them of their riches. What the Galactic Council had failed to understand was that the peace of humanity was not born out of fear, but as a well-kept masquerade, a very fragile balance that kept the true nature of the Terran Empire hidden for centuries. Humans hadn't forgotten how to go to war. They had merely decided not to, perhaps in the hope it would ensure their survival. It was a galaxy-wide broadcast, reeking of threats and condescension. In a few hours, it reached Terra Prime. Then, 2 days later, a response came in thoughts of mere 3 words: "We accept. Prepare." Commander K stared at the message. His confidence shook. "This isn't the response of a frightened species," he growled, eyes narrowed. The Council looked around. Their earlier bravado evaporated into this unexpected development. "What do we know of their military?" K demanded. The answers were chilling estimates based on trade records and technological exports, but little hard data on their actual forces. The last recorded engagement had been a skirmish that ended diplomatically before any real conflict. K's frustration mounted. What are their weapons? Their tactics? The answers remained the same unknown. The commander slammed his fist down, the force echoing through the chamber. "Perhaps we're being too open, K," said Stahl, his fingers wrapping around Kay's arm in anxious circles. Should we not dispatch an envoy to discuss terms, secure in the knowledge that their entry into this conflict will be of benefit to us? No, shook Kay's head. Letter is adequate. It says they come in to fight. How come now? How come so suddenly? The Terran Empire, surprised and off balance by the sudden willingness to engage from a council preparing for war, was caught off guard. There was no going back now. They would take to the battlefield and secure the humans' aid by whatever means. In a matter of days, the council launched its fleet, the largest armada in galactic history, off of Terran space and prepared to meet whatever the humans would bring with them to the battlefield. Dub muttered, pacing the bridge of his flagship. They said they would be here. Perhaps they're planning to rendezvous with us further out, Saul suggested, though his tone was uncertain. Kay was about to reply when an alert flashed across the main console. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. It's from the Terran Empire, Kay ordered sharply. On screen, the image that coalesced on screen wasn't what anyone had expected. It wasn't a fleet, nor some delegation of human diplomats. It was a lone man, in a black uniform, his expression unreadable. He stood in what appeared to be the command center of a warship, though the design was quite unlike anything the Council had seen before. This is Admiral Marcus Reeve of the Terran Empire, the man said in a calm, even tone. We are en route to your location. Prepare to receive us. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Kay stared into the blank screen, his mind racing. None of the hesitation, none of the trace of that weakness he was expecting from them. There had been no hesitation, no trace of that weakness he was expecting from the humans. Admiral Reeve had spoken like he was already in command of the situation, as if the Council fleet were his to direct. Something's not right, Kay muttered more to himself than to any in particular. They were too confident. We must be ready for anything, Commander. It is possible that the humans have only been pretending to this level of strength, biding their time until they attack us, warned the voice of Stahl. Kay scowled, but said nothing. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the threshold of something a great deal more dangerous than they had contemplated. And then, with the shadow of the Terran Empire looming closer and closer, it began to dawn on the Galactic Council that they might have made the mistake of their careers. The tension in the bridge of Kay's flagship lay thick as a whole fleet of the Terran Empire burst from hyperspace. The display screens flared to life, one after the other, after the last coalesced in the void in front of them. That was if it could even be called in front of them, for these vessels were not any of the sleek, elegant designs the Council had envisioned. The Terran vessels were brutish and utilitarian, with sharp, angular lines and an intimidating presence. Each one bristled with weapons that seemed almost excessive, even by the Council's standards. By the gods, a whispered voice echoed on the bridge. Kay stared, his reptilian eyes narrowing. There was no mistaking the firepower arrayed before them. The Terran fleet was huge, far larger than anything the Council had anticipated. And yet it wasn't just the sheer number of ships that caused unease. It was the way they moved with precision, synchronized efficiency, like a predator stalking its prey. Open a channel, Kay ordered, his voice tinged with uncertainty. The screen flickered, and then Admiral Reeve was standing before them once more. For the first time, the Admiral was seated in the command chair of his ship, his expression unruffled as always. Commander Kay, Reeve began, tilting his head slightly in a gesture that was, or wasn't, respectful. The Terran Empire is present as promised. We're ready to take the field against the Krogan with the Galactic Council. Kay clamped his jaw tight. Something hinky, something downright unnerving, lay behind Reeve's smooth, composed facade, as though the Admiral knew about the doubts of the Council and plainly couldn't care less. You've brought quite the fleet, Admiral, Kay said, forcing a smile. It's more than we expected. We believe in being prepared, Reeve replied smoothly. The Krogan are a formidable enemy. It would be unwise to underestimate them. Kay leaned further forward, his eyes narrowing even more. I hope you understand the gravity of this situation, Admiral. This war is nothing like the skirmishes to which you may have been accustomed. The Krogan do not negotiate, and they do not retreat. They fight until their enemies are crushed beneath them. Reeves' expression didn't falter. The Terran Empire is fully aware of the Krogan nature, Commander. We've dealt with similar threats before, if perhaps not on this scale. Rest assured, we are prepared. Kay's instincts yammered that something was wrong, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. He was an old soldier, and he'd fought 1,000 battles on 1,000 battlefields, but this felt different. Very well, Kay said finally. We will advance together. The Krogan fleet has been detected in the Nestor sector. We plan to intercept them before they can reach the core systems. A sound strategy, Reeve agreed. We will follow your lead. Kay ended the transmission and turned to his officers. Monitor their movements closely, he ordered. I want to know if they make even the slightest deviation from our course. The Council fleet began to descend upon the Nestor sector, the Terrans following suit and falling in line. The combined fleet was a wonder to behold, a symbol of strength from the strongest civilizations within the galaxy. However, there was a hint of fear cast like a shroud across the ranks of the Council. The coming of the Terran Empire had caught them off guard, an undertow they carried into the open, their aggression balancing the scale, and Reeves' unsettling composure. As they closed in on where the Krogan was believed to be, tensions mounted. The Council fleet came through slow and cautiously, hoping to pick up any sign of them. The Krogan was legendary for its ambush techniques, using its bioengineered warships to strike with lethal surprise. There, one of the officers shouted, pointing to the screen. A red swarm had appeared on the radar and was closing in at fantastic speed on their position. Enemy fleet detected. Kay barked, all ships to battle stations. The Council's warships formed battle lines, and its weapon systems came online. The Krogan ships were huge, organic things, hulls glowing with bioluminescent energy. They charged forward with fearsome speed, in a determined bid to smash into Council's lines. Fire at will, Kay ordered, and the void erupted in a blaze of energy as the Council fleet opened fire. Beams of plasma and kinetic projectiles streaked across space, slamming into the Krogan ships. The enemy vessels retaliated with their own bioweapons, spewing corrosive acid and spore-filled pods that clung to the Council ships, eating away at their hulls. The battle raged on. The emptiness exploded with flashes of burning and exploding ships, with screams of the dying vessels. The Krogan fought as they were known to do, pouring themselves upon the Council fleet with no mercy towards their own deaths. That was when the Terran Empire sprang into action. Without warning, the Terran ships surged forward, breaking up formation and plunging directly into the heart of the Krogan fleet. Kay watched in a state of shock as the Terran vessels unleashed a level of firepower that he had not witnessed before. It was not the raw volume of fire, but the precision. The Terran weapons cut through the Krogan ships with surgical accuracy, targeting weak points with unerring efficiency. What are they doing? Stahl gasped. They're breaking formation. Kay's eyes went wide with the sudden stark realization. The Terrans weren't breaking formation. They were running a play they hadn't shared with the Council. The attack had come completely out of the blue, and now the Krogan fleet showed the first signs of faltering. Terran vessels were moving with a terrifying coordination. Every maneuver was carried out so as to ensure maximum damage would be done to ensure minimum risk. For all their ferocity, the Krogan just couldn't stand against them. One by one, the ships were being ripped to pieces. The once imposing fleet churned to wreckage in a matter of minutes. And meanwhile, Admiral Reeve, Kay muttered, pacing the bridge of his flagship. They said they'd be here. Perhaps they're rendezvousing with us farther out, Saul suggested, though his voice was less than certain. Kay was about to respond when a flashing alert crossed the front console. Incoming transmission, the communications officer said. It's from the Terran Empire. Kay growled. Put it on screen, but the image that coalesced was not of a fleet, or even of a delegation, but of a single man. Wearing a dark uniform and an unreadable expression, he was standing in what seemed to be the command center of a warship, though its design was nothing like that of any warship the Council members had ever seen. This is Admiral Marcus Reeve of the Terran Empire, the man said calmly, his voice composed. "We are en route to your location. Prepare to receive us." The transmission ended with the silence of shock falling on the bridge. Kay was staring at the blank screen, his thoughts racing. There had not been a moment of hesitation, not an air of weakness heard in the human's tone. Admiral Reeve was speaking, as if he already controlled, as if the Council fleet was simply a tool to his command. "Something's not right," Kay muttered, not really addressing anyone in particular. "They're too confident." Stahl nodded, always the voice of reason. "We must be prepared for everything, Commander. Is possible these humans were just biding their time, preserving their real strength, until now." Kay scowled, but said nothing. A sense of foreboding he couldn't seem to shake appeared to coil itself around his throat like a hangman's noose. It wasn't the fact that the Terran Empire had entered the war that bothered him. It was more the feeling that they had come to take their rightful place and that the Council had lost something more than a battle. In a matter of minutes, the Terran fleet emerged from hyperspace, filling display screens across the room with one ship after another. They were not at all the dainty designs the Council had assumed them to be. Great, hulking, angular monsters bristling with guns. Each and every one was a testament to brute strength, meant not for defense, but for utter destruction. "By the gods," someone whispered. Kay stared, his reptilian eyes narrowing. The Terran fleet was huge, much bigger than the Council had ever considered it would be, and it moved with a terrifying precision. Like a predator poised to strike, each ship operated in perfect coordination. "Open a channel," Kay ordered, his voice laced with uncertainty. The screen flickered back to life, and Admiral Reeve's face filled the display once more. Seated in his command chair, Reeve looked totally unruffled, as though he had not altered his pose from that which he had held a short time previously. "Commander Kay," Reeve nodded in greeting. "A decisive victory, don't you think?" Kay searched the Admiral's face for any sign of arrogance or deceit and found none. Just that same unnerving calm. "Yes, Admiral," Kay said cautiously, measuring his words. "Decisive indeed. The Council is grateful for your assistance. Your tactics were highly effective." "Thank you, Commander," Reeve said suavely. "The Terran Empire is always happy to assist our allies in times of need." The word allies hung in the air like an unspoken threat. He could practically feel the unasked questions from his crew and the other Council members. Were they allies really, or had the Council merely traded one threat for another? Kay coughed into his fist. "The Krogan fleet is defeated, eliminating the immediate threat, but there's still much to discuss about our future cooperation." Reeve's eyes sharpened, though his smile remained. "Indeed, Commander, there is much to discuss. The Terran Empire has long stood apart from the wars of the galaxy, but we are not without concerns. The Krogan were merely a symptom of a larger problem, a problem that requires a united response." Kay's scales prickled at the implications. "And what problem is that, Admiral?" Reeve leaned forward, his gaze intense. "Instability. The galaxy is becoming more dangerous day by day. A threat, the Krogan were. Yes, but not the only one. If the Galactic Council is to survive for a long time, it will require more than the odd victory here and there. It will need strength, unity, and a leader to stand by." A cold dread ran up Kay's spine. Leadership. It was a word that rattled around his skull, bringing with it all the terrors that had risen with the coming of the Terran fleet. "What are you suggesting precisely?" Kay asked, although he already knew. Reeve's smile spread a little farther. "An alliance, Commander. One that extends beyond a single battle or even a single war. The Terran Empire offers its strength, its resources, and its protection to the Galactic Council. In return, we ask for cooperation. True cooperation, under a unified command." Kay's blood ran cold. This was no alliance, but submission. The Council wasn't going to be an equal partner. It was to be subservient to the Terran Empire. Their autonomy sacrificed on the altar of safety. "And if we refuse?" Kay asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. Reeve's face did not change color, but there was a glint of hardness in his eyes. "Refusal is, of course, an option, Commander. Still, consider this. The Krogan were a powerful foe, and yet they did not stand for more than minutes. The Terran Empire covers an enormous distance, and our capabilities go far beyond what you have seen during these few hours. We would rather not have any trouble, but neither will we back away from it, should it be necessary. The threat was clear. The Terran Empire had flexed their muscle, and now they were giving the Council a choice: join them or deal with the ramifications. Kay's mind was racing. His whole career had been a fight for the survival of the Galactic Council, leading battles against those who wished it destroyed. But this was different. The Terrans weren't an enemy in the traditional sense. They were something far more dangerous, a force that could reshape the entire galaxy in their image. But Kay also knew resistance was useless. The Krogan had been the Council's greatest threat, and they had been nuked out of existence in mere moments. What could the Council possibly stand against in full might of the Terran Empire? Kay took a deep breath and locked gazes with Reeve. "We shall take your proposal to the Council." His voice was measured, certain, but the weight of his words hung heavy in the air. "But let me make one thing quite clear for you, Admiral. The Galactic Council has stood for millennia. We will not be intimidated by fear of any kind." The smile returned to Reeve's face, but didn't quite make it to his eyes. "Of course, Commander. Take all the time you need. The Terran Empire will be waiting." The screen went dark as the transmission ended. Kay slumped back in his chair, the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders. He knew what had to be done, yet that didn't make the decision any easier. Stahl approached him cautiously. "Commander, what are we going to do?" Kay stared down at the darkened screen, his mind already made up. "We're going to survive, Stahl. Whatever it takes, we're going to survive." The Council would debate the Terran Empire's proposal, but Kay knew it came too little, too late. The galaxy would never be whole when the Terran fleet arrived. The Council would have to adapt or be crushed by the might of the Empire. Now, as the fleet started out into that most leaden of seas towards the heart of Council space, Kay couldn't help thinking of that old saying, "Better the devil you know than the devil you don't." But now, the galaxy had a new devil in it, and one which no one really knew at all. The Terran Empire had proven the galaxy that it was not quite as fearful of war as many would believe. They had simply been waiting for that opportune moment to remind everyone why they were the most dangerous species within the galaxy.